So today in this episode we have Prince Thomas, and he's been covering aviation for quite some time. And thank you, Prince, for joining us and agreeing to be part of this. I hope the next 20 to 30 minutes are fun for both of us.
Well, thank you so much, Amaya, and thanks for having me on your podcast. Absolute pleasure.
Great. So let's begin with some very questions which people generally want to know. So how long have you been in aviation, and are you the first person from your family to get into this profession, or you have a background of this? How did it all begin?
No, I have absolutely no background. In fact, just a coincidence because I was working with the Hindu Business Line in Chennai when we thought that aviation was an emerging area and we should be covering it closely than we were doing. And aviation had huge customer interest. And we thought that we should have a special page on aviation every fortnight. And I was part of a team that actually designed and conceptualized that page, which was called Flight Plan. That was the first time that I was kind of so directly involved in anything to do with aviation, and that's where my interest actually began. And then I started closely tracking it, reading about it, writing about it. So that's how it all started, but it was completely a coincidence. Though I had always been fascinated by aviation because any customer-centric sector is very interesting for me because otherwise I have always been tracking a very B2B businesses, and aviation was one which was so customer-centric, and because you yourself travel and you get fascinated by flying and you all the things that involves flying, isn't it? I mean, you go to the airport, the experience of being in the airport, looking at the shops, then even as you board or in the flight and you look at the aircraft, the crew. I mean, there is some. It's pretty different from any other sector that I have written about. So that's how the whole my involvement with aviation began. So it is very much a coincidence, nothing designed. And yes, as of now, no one in my family is anywhere close to aviation. It's a family full of mechanical engineers otherwise.
Interesting. So how was the reaction when you decided to get into journalism?
Not very not very positive, I must say, because like you said, it's a very typical small town upbringing where parents want their children to be either doctors or engineers, and or go for UPSC. And I grew up in Bihar, though my roots are in Kerala. I grew up in Bihar, and my father was an engineer in a steel plant. And very much like 90s time, everyone thought about being a doctor, engineer, or an IAS officer. And historically, if you see from Bihar or Jharkhand, a lot of IAS officers have come out, IPS or IFS. So that was the natural thing. But my when I did first say that I like journalism, I want to be a journalist. I don't think anyone from my family really took it well because, to be honest, one, because no one else from the family had been in media, and second, not much is known about media. Even though people used to read newspapers at that time, and then later on, TV channels came up, and are now online. But then the time when there were only newspapers, very little was known about journalists. I mean, the movies, the Bollywood movies had created this stereotype image of a guy wearing a kurta and with a jhola by his shoulders with a notepad and a pen in his hand. That was the typical stereotype image of a journalist. So,
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this series to really get behind the lines of people who are covering news. So what is it to create news and cover news? And as you rightly pointed out, I think it's still the same. That stereotype is
yeah,
broken, but
yeah,
people typically don't know what it is. And leave aside regular journalism even more difficult to understand aviation journalism.
That's right. That's right. So yes. So initial reaction wasn't really good, but then they realized that I was really seriously interested in it, and then probably seeing my passion, they gave in.
Uh, so, Prince, if not journalism, what would it have been as an alternate career? IAS, a doctor, an engineer? You referred to a couple of these specifically, so I'm giving options.
Engineer never, because I was never very technically inclined, uh, um, and I was more always, though I like biology, but not enough to, further my interest. I was always inclined more towards the humanities stream of academy. So that's what I did. But while I was doing my post graduation in economics, which was in Hyderabad Central University, I did go with an idea of doing an MBA, and I did even gave couple of months to prepare for the entrance exam. And it was also prodded by my parents and my brother, who said, "Why don't you at least try MBA once before you really take a plunge into journalism?" But then 2 months of preparation, and I absolutely found no interest in what I was studying. I was more interested in what was happening in media, and I was very fascinated with newspapers. So that was my childhood fascination, and I was very used to reading newspapers very early. Times of India and Telegraph we used to get a day late. I mean, we were in Bokaro in Jharkhand, which is Jharkhand now, and then it was Bihar. And we used to get editions a day late because there was no local edition at that time. But despite that, I mean, it didn't matter, that it was a day edition, which was a day late. But I was always fascinated with newspapers. So I did tour with that MBA thing for a while, but then it was back to even more sure that it was journalism that I should do.
Interesting. So, where are you based currently?
I'm in Mumbai right now.
Okay, so the journey has been Bokaro, Chennai, roots in Kerala, Hyderabad, Mumbai. Interesting places that you've lived.
Oh yes, and in Delhi and Chennai too. So this is my
Yeah.
second stint in second stint in Mumbai, two stints in Delhi, one in Chennai. Yes, been living a nomadic life.
Interesting one, right? So how long ago was this special edition of Hindu Business Line? How many years ago was this?
This was not very long ago. This was recent. In fact, it would be around 7 years ago.
Okay.
Uh, 7 years ago is something when I think we launched the flight plan, if I'm not wrong. Yes, seven
Hmm.
years ago.
Okay.
So me covering aviation is a more recent phenomenon. I mean, I've been in journalism for 18 years, but before that, I've been writing more on conglomerates, on steel and metal mining companies, on business families. When I was at India magazine, so aviation was a very new space for me, and I think that's probably why I really fascinated me because it was something new too.
Interesting. So let's get to this topic of aviation, right? So, in the last 7 years or so that you've covered, starting with Flight Plan, which was like part of the team which had this as a brainchild and come up with things about aviation to where you are
Mhm.
today. You would
Sure.
have covered a lot of news, taken a lot of interviews, and spoken to a lot of people, right?
That's right.
Do you remember which was your first news item which you covered for aviation? Of course, not the flight plan part, but a news, if you remember.
Oh, even flight plan I remember because
Okay.
because it was something to do with safety had come up. I think it was some incident that happened with an overrun flight or something to do with that, and there were again discussion about the safety and the safety culture of aviation in India. And we thought that interviewing Mr. Mohan Ranganathan would be a good idea because one, he was in Chennai. I could go over and meet him, and he always had very strong opinion about safety in aviation. So That was my probably my first byline. I did an interview with him about the whole safety aspect, and which was pretty well received because Mr. Ranganathan is pretty blunt in his opinion, and it worked perfectly well because we really wanted to shock people uh, to really make them sit up and notice the importance of safety in aviation. So that was my first byline. And through Flight Plan, I wrote numerous feature stories because Flight Plan was a fortnightly page. It was more as a feature than anything else. And then when I joined Money Control, I did numerous, breaking news stories, hard news stories, follow-ups, and developments. And I continue to write on aviation here in Morning Context, which is again long-form feature stories. But the 3.5, 4 years in Money Control, it was pretty much hard news.
Right. So that gets me to another question linked to this, right? In the age of breaking news on Twitter and social media and other places, any
Mhm.
news which you were the first one to break in the industry, which you remember, like this was the news where you tweeted first or you wrote about it first.
Yes, I mean, in the sense when I really wrote about it first, which was in December 2018, it didn't really flare up the way it should have been. But I was the first to write about the differences between the founders of Indigo,
Oh,
between Rahul
interesting,
Bhatia and Rakesh Gangwal. And
interesting.
when I wrote it back and I got to know about this from sources, and we did back to back stories because I put out the story because we thought it was incredible. Here it was the largest Indian airline, and two very high profile promoters who had built the airline are at loggerheads, and the two had played almost equal role in building the airline. So it was quite a news break, and we did the story, and shortly after that, we did an exclusive interview with Mr. Bhatia, who surely denied everything. Um, but for some strange reason, it didn't become, a big news. But it did become a big news later on when, it kind of completely came out in open, and then allegations were traded between both the camps, and I think Mr. Gangwal went to SEBI with complaints, and then we know the history. But surely, I mean, but that was a break I keep always keep close to because that's something that we did it first at Money Control.
Nice. And on the flip side, any story which you knew is happening, you decided not to break it for whatever reasons, and then somebody else broke it.
Um, well, there were not breaking news, but last year when the whole COVID happened and you had the first lockdown and then the series of lockdown and the domestic and international flights were suspended, there were so many things happening, right? I mean, to do with layoffs, with what aircraft, I mean, were grounded and things like that. So there was a kind of a deluge of news, and in that there were things that as a journalist, you always want to keep it balanced in the sense every time we do a story, we need to get a response from the people whom we are writing about. So if it is about an airline, we need to get their response on what we are writing on. And in that process, to get their response, I did lose out on a couple of stories, and the competition got it first. But then I think it's part and parcel of the game, especially when you are in an online real-time news cycle where there's so much to write about and so much to follow up on. There's bound to be a couple of misses here and there, but then you always get back to the grind and keep going on.
Right, interesting point there. Right, so you also referred about an interview with Mr. Bhatia, and I'm sure you would have taken many interviews. So, any interview which you would call as the most memorable, or the one which was filled with now a lot of humor, laughter, interesting insights, any of it?
Yeah, in fact, I mean, just to take on from the whole episode between the Indigo founders. I mean, there were many off-the-record conversations, from both the camps, and some of them were absolutely splendid, and because of which also the conversations were not just about the issues between the two founders, but also going back to the way Indigo had grown up, because both Mr. Gangwal and Mr. Bhatia had played immense role in the way Indigo had built its business. It was known for its maintenance contracts, or the kind of network it had, or the huge orders of aircraft it had given. So all those conversations were very, very fascinating, because for the first time, uh, faces were coming out. You understood who the people are in very many of these businesses. So that is very close to me. I mean, I really had great fun tracking those, the follow-ups on the whole tussle between the two founders. And second, I think in morning context, early on, we did a story on Air India, and this was before, this was when the whole privatization thing was on, and everyone knew that the Tatas are very much the favorites to get Air India. So we did a story on how it's going to be for Tatas and what would be the challenges, and what's Air India like. And I spoke to a lot of Air India ex officials, pilots, former directors, and it was fascinating to know more about Air India, because it was an amazing airline. I mean, given its legacy, history, and also the challenges and the manpower culture issues that Air India has. So there were many, many stories, a lot of stories which are based on gossip, stories about pilots, about politicians involved. So that story also I thought was very, very insightful and also very entertaining, because there's so much about people and the way they behave. So that was also fascinating.
Interesting. And anything on the flip side here, some interview which did not go well, something which you wanted but couldn't get. And I know all of this many a times for you is off record and never an on
Yes,
record interview, but still
yes.
anything that you can share with our listeners.
Yeah, I think some of the things about Go Air. We couldn't write everything that we heard about or spoke to people and they told us, because many of these things couldn't be collaborated, and we just, and what we do in basically in journalism, if you're following basic practices, is that you hear something, you try to verify it multiple times, and if you don't, are unable to, how much ever the big the news is or the information is, we kind of hesitate to use it because it's not been verified by other sources. So a couple of times it's happened that some bit on GoAir we weren't able to write because we couldn't corroborate that. But like I said, it's all part of the job. Hits and misses keep happening. That's what I immediately remember about GoAir, because while in Money Control and now again in Morning Context, I've written extensively on GoAir too. Because apart from the airline, we also have very dynamic promoters there, so it's always an interesting topic to delve into. So yes, GoAir comes very much into my um, mind right now. Yeah.
Right. Interesting case. And now you referred about morning context and money control, and you've been in journalism for 18 years, so you are the right person to ask this, right? From
Sure.
an era of newspapers to online to a free online, a freemium product to a paid. I think you've been in all of it, not just
That's
seen, but
true.
actually been in all of it. Where do you
That's
see this industry headed? I mean, I understand that content has to be paid for, but the real challenge as an individual is even if you can afford, sometimes you don't have time to subscribe to all of them
mm,
and then consume as much content because there is just so much. But
that's right.
especially, I would like to hear this from you because you also referred to reading newspaper, which is a day old. So from there, to a paid only, it's quite a journey, and would be really interesting to know your thoughts on where this is headed.
Sure. I mean, it's a tough call, because of the kind of media industry we have and the number of players. I don't think there's any other media industry in the world which has as many papers, magazines, uh, TV channels, because you bring in the regional products and publications too, and it's a huge, huge industry. And to frankly speaking, Indian readers are spoiled, because we are used to getting free content. Uh, we are spoiled for choice. We can get news and opinions and feature stories from anywhere that we want. So it's practically a very, very crowded, almost like a fish market out there. So in all this, uh, so so in money control, for instance, it was always a fight for page views, for getting out news first, so that people will read our content first. So the competition was always was in terms of speed, in terms of breaking news, and then the rest would come. So it was a completely different model, and any online platform like Money Control will be competing with the wires like Reuters and Bloomberg. They will be competing with the channels like CNBC, ET now, and they will also be competing with the newspapers, because online means you write a breaking news and then you start doing follow-ups. So you kind of competing with everyone there, and I mean, in a typical day in Money Control, there would be hundreds of stories that are getting published, and there are so many more platforms like Control out there who are churning out stories like a kind of a factory flow. Uh, from there, Morning Contest is a completely different product. It's one of the very few platforms in India which is completely behind the paywall. I mean, almost completely. We have a couple of newsletters which are free, but otherwise, all our premium stories that are published every morning, they're all behind the paywall. Um, so that's a very different and very difficult model to really pull it off in India, because the readers are spoiled, for choices. But the good thing is that because of the whole fish market out there, there are also a group of discerning readers who really want to delve into uh, an issue, a topic, a little more deeper, a little more in an objective way, balanced way, and who are also ready to pay. And Morning Contest, we realize that these readers could be students, these could be professionals, entrepreneurs, investors, people who invest in stock markets. So there are this pocket of discerning readers across the market. So which is a very, very good news for us. The challenge for us is that we really have to be ahead of the curve from the rest, because we need to because here the essence of the news is gone, right? Because we are writing a day later or 2 days later or 3 days later. So the reporting has to be a little more intense, the research has to be intense, and the perspective that we provide has to be different from anyone else. And because on that, we are asking people to um, subscribe to us. So it's almost like we are, it's a pull product. We are asking people to come in, and we are pushing the product to them, and asking them to subscribe. So it's a very anything like a Money Control is also intense and tough product, but and at the same time, Morning Content is also a very, very different kind of a product. Uh, the best thing about it is that the kind of traction we are getting, it shows that there is room for this niche segment of media industry too. And I think there are a couple of more other examples of platforms also which have similar offerings, and they all seem to be doing decently well. And I think this is the way to go forward. One, it has to be digital, and second, you have to really differentiate your product, because there's so many similar copycats out there. So this is the way you can differentiate your product from others. And I think there's a great future for a product like Morning Context and in any similar product on this realm. I think internationally also we have seen that many of the bigger publications too have really done well in the uh, you know uh, when they went on to the pay for model. Uh, so I think while the big newspapers like Times of India, Hindustan Times will continue to be free because they have the strength of their network and circulation and get ads, there would always be products like Morning Context which don't depend on ads for their revenue but only on subscription. And readers are coming to appreciate that, which is a very thankful trend.
This is very insightful, Prince. Really, and I'm glad that I could ask this question to you because the kind of spectrum which you have seen is really wide, and this was really insightful. Thanks a lot. So let me get you
Hey,
back to aviation again, right? So,
sure.
if there is one person you want to interview, and you want it to be your biggest interview ever, who would that be? I know it's a hypothetical question, but
Yes.
have you ever thought of it that you want to interview this person?
Oh, I would have loved to interview Mr. J.R.D. Tata right now if he was around because
Let me tell you, I'll not name because the series is not yet out, but somebody else also said the same thing. So once
I
it is
see.
out, I'll let you know who it was. But somebody, one of your colleagues from the industry, has said the same thing.
I see. Because that would be fascinating. And second, I mean, if not JRD, I think Ratan Tata also would be someone who would be fascinating because his love for aviation has been fascinating enough. At the same time, he's someone who was very close to JRD and had seen what happened to Air India through these 60, 70 years. And unfortunately, we don't know much about what his view is apart from the statements he's given. And those are, I mean, we would love to go in depth and talk to him too. But that's fascinating, yes.
Yeah, that's still possible, and I'll wish you all the luck if you go to
Thank you
give
so much.
interviews and you manage to get one. All my good wishes with you to get one interview with Mr. Ratan Tata.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Right, and Prince, that gets us to the no last question for this recording, and
Mhm.
it's more from your thoughts about this sector. The last 2 years or so has been really bad. First with the Jet Airways suspension, saw 2019 being bad for airline, and
That's right.
followed by 2020 where COVID started hitting hard first some parts of the world, followed by a worldwide scenario. So it's been say 7 years since flight plan that you've seen.
Mhm.
Where do you see this flight plan, so to say, head from here on?
What really had got me worried was the human factor behind all this, right? In the last 1 year, 1.5 years, we've seen, and I did stories, breaking stories about, airlines across, not just in India, but across the world also letting go of people. And that was, and that's not just about COVID, but we also seen the case of Jet Airways. And before that, we had seen in the case of Kingfisher, where people lose their jobs and them not being able to really have a really don't know what's going to come in the near future. So that was one part of reporting that really left you disturbed because you talk to people, see how the life has been turned upside down because they've lost jobs and because aviation is such a niche field. You're a pilot, and there's nothing else you can do, isn't it? I mean, many other professions are not like that. I mean, you are an engineer. If you are a mechanical engineer, there's so many other sectors where you can really go and apply for a job. But what can a pilot do? So that was really something because some of them have also become close friends, and it was disturbing to see how troubled they were. So, days of from days where it was pretty dark to where now we are seeing, and you have been very regular in giving updates on Twitter about about the passenger traffic, and it is very heartening to see how things are getting back and how capacity is improving and loads are improving and people are traveling and hopefully. many more of those who are without job will get back to work. My only reservation here is that we have seen in the case of Jet Airways is that the whole system of bankruptcy proceeding is kind of skewed against operational creditors and employees because the system is such that it always kind of gives preference to the financial creditors, which are the banks, and employees and their arrears and their salaries are always at the last. And I've written about it in my stories where the haircuts that Jet Airways employees have been forced to take is much higher than what the banks have. And that is something that I'm hoping that as amendments come in in the IBC in the next
Mm-hmm.
few months, I'm looking forward to things improving. And
Great.
I also haven't traveled much. I'm myself looking forward to travel much more than in the last 1.5 years.
Yeah, so this morning I was speaking to someone, and someone asked me how long I've not been in a plane, and I said close to 700 days now, and this is probably the longest since I remember, or since I got a chance to fly. Then he said,
Wow.
when do you want to be in the plane again? I said, I don't know. I still find it a little, no, I can avoid type mentality right now. But
Mhm.
once things open up, I want to just do 5 flights in 24 hours. Just start from Pune, go to Bangalore, take a next flight to
Yeah.
Hyderabad, then go to Delhi, come back to Pune. I want to take 4 or 5 flights in 24 hours. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I get what you are saying.
Yeah, completely. I mean, we're grossly missing the travel, the whole fun of
Absolutely.
travel. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, thanks, Prince. We come to an end of this recording. Thank you for your time and sharing your thoughts. They've been really insightful, understanding your journey, understanding what led you into this, really starting from the small town of Bokaro to where you are today. And I'll let you know when we release this episode. Thanks a lot
Oh,
again.
yes. Thank you so much, Amaya. I mean, it's a fantastic initiative that you've taken here because as a journalist, you're not used to, being asked questions. So it's a great time for us also to reflect in our journey and where we are. And conversations are always great. So thank you so much for the question and thanks so much for inviting me here.
Welcome.